And he said, the researcher says this, at extreme levels, entitlement is a toxic narcissistic trait, repeatedly exposing people to the risk of feeling frustrated, unhappy, and disappointed in life. Entitlement, the feel that you are deserving of things that you didn't earn, is driving your unhappiness, is what they found. Confronting these limitations is especially threatening to an entitled person because it violates their worldview of self-superiority. The study looked at 170 cases and determined that entitlement leads to a cycle of disappointment, anger, negativity, and a constant need for that person to tell themselves that they are special. Professor Julie Exline, who was also involved in the study, added this system only creates more issues and create more problems with other people. See, this entire entitlement mindset, it's found, pits everyone against everyone else. When people think they should have everything they want, newsflash, you don't get everything you want. When you think you should have everything you want, often for nothing, it comes at the cost of relationships with others and ultimately your own happiness. Basically, what this study found is that the more you feel you deserve something, the more unhappy, miserable, and angry you will be. So if you have subscribed to the spirit of the age of entitlement, that you deserve things you didn't work for and that you are owed things you didn't earn, you're going to be the most miserable, unhappy person on the planet. That's what this shows. And my interaction with entitled people, I would say that that is very true. But our main thing today is the exact opposite of what this culture is saying now. Our culture shouts, you deserve. But our main thing says, you don't have the right to possessions of others. And now you know why people are so bitter and angry and miserable all the time is because they bought into entitlement. They constantly feel that someone is shortchanging them because they should have everything they want. And if I don't get what I want, then that's a problem. That's what entitlement says. And it is out of this sense of entitlement we get the eighth commandment, thou shalt not steal. See, the Bible is very clear on the subject. You don't have the right to the possessions of others. All theft is wrong. I don't care how you try to justify it or rationalize it or explain it away. All theft is wrong. See, it's very difficult for a libertarian such as myself to find any purpose in government whatsoever. But I actually found three. There are actually three purposes of government. The government is to protect life, liberty, and property. The government is supposed to keep people from killing you. It's supposed to protect your life, and they do a pretty good job of it. We're all alive. They do a pretty good job of it, okay? The government is supposed to stop people from depriving you of liberty. And the government is supposed to stop people from taking your stuff. Now, the only thing that the government can really do, though, about that, they can't really police people that won't police themselves. Can't do much with people that won't police themselves. The best the government can do is go find the person that killed you or deprived you of liberty or took your stuff, put them on trial, and then lock them away in jail. Well, what good does that do for me? I had my speakers stolen out of my car. The guy gets caught, goes to jail. I'm still without my speakers. That doesn't do anything for me, the victim. Well, check out how the Bible dealt with theft. And no, they didn't cut people's hands off, okay? This is how God set things up. This is how we're supposed to deal with theft. This is amazing. Look at this. The Bible says the punishment for theft is restitution. Numbers 5:5-7. The Lord said to Moses, say to the Israelites, any man or woman who wrongs another in any way and so is unfaithful to the Lord is guilty and must confess the sin they have committed. They must make full restitution for the wrong they have done, add a fifth of the value to it, and give it all to the person they've wronged. The Bible says that in order to make it right, you have to pay back the full amount and add 20% to it. So if you were caught stealing something in ancient Israel, let's say you stole $100, you had to pay the person $120. You had to pay back the full amount you stole and add 20% to it, and it was considered settled. No jail time, no community service, it was considered settled. If you stole a car worth $50,000, you owed the person a car worth $60,000. If you shoplift a candy bar, you owe the store a candy bar and a few Skittles, because that's 20%, okay? And then it was considered done, you guys. Over. Done. Finished. No, nothing else. See, the way the Bible dealt with theft was so different than the way we deal with theft. The Bible, you had to make direct amends to the person you had sinned against. That was because the Bible understands what our society doesn't, that theft is a relational break. You are sinning against someone, and therefore you have to make it right. Going to jail doesn't do anything. Making it right with the person you sinned against is the way to do it. And you had to look them in the face. You had to give of your own possessions to make it right. And it was a pretty good deal to be stolen from back then. Immediate 20% return on your investment. I mean, seriously, I would leave a $100 bill laying out. Somebody took it, I catch him. All of a sudden, I get 120. That's a pretty good deal. It worked out for the victim. See, the Bible understands theft isn't just taking a possession. It's a relational break. It's a disrespect. It's a statement of what you think of that person. If you steal from someone, you're sticking your middle finger in their face and say, you're nothing. It's a relational break. It's not just money. It's not just a possession. It's a relational break, and that's why the Bible demands restitution and adding 20% to it. Okay? See, if thieves had to look a person they stole from in the face, give back what they stole, and add 20% of their own possessions, we'd see a lot less theft, you guys. That's how serious the Bible takes possessions and respecting other people's stuff. Keep your hands off that which is not yours. Thou shalt not steal. Now, there's a judge that I read in a news article this past week that's doing something similar. It's not fully biblical, but it's pretty good. Check this out. Judge orders Walmart shoplifters to wash cars in store parking lot. How awesome is that? A Genesee County judge is trying a new form of expungement, sentencing Walmart shoplifters to wash cars in the parking lot this spring. In an effort to deter theft at Grand Blanc Township store and reward law-abiding shoppers, Judge Jeffrey Clothier began ordering Walmart wash sentences this week for misdemeanor shoplifting. The store in Grand Blanc Township is 50 miles north of Detroit. Clothier hopes to sponge equity in the form of hand-washing cars, as well as facing fellow customers and community members. Will discourage people from stealing from Walmart. I'd say it would. I think it'd be humiliating to be out there washing cars. You see someone you know. Wow. See, that actually does something. Rather than just locking someone in jail or paying a fine or whatever, making restitution is biblical. Now, obviously, theft is taking things that don't belong to you, whether it's shoplifting, whether it's money, whether it's a possession, stealing. But there are a lot of other ways that people steal. Some things that may be flying under the radar that you may be doing right now that I'm gonna shine some light on. Okay, this is how we steal without really thinking about it. Number one, borrowing without returning. How many of us have possessions of other people in our house that we quote unquote borrowed and never returned? A hammer, a ladder, a frying pan, whatever. It was not given to you. You borrowed it, but you kept it. How many of us have pens from people? We can't keep pens in this church, you guys. They walk out of here every Wednesday night. People take them. Well, guys, that is stealing. Okay? This is such a blind spot for us people. I would even go so far as to say it is the exception, not the norm, when someone actually returns something they borrow from you. It's the exception. I'm astounded when somebody actually gives it back. You need to return it. It's not yours. You don't have the right to the possessions of others. Okay? You may have forgotten about it, and they may have forgotten it too. It's still theft. But borrowing without returning is stealing. If you borrow something, return it quickly. Don't make them hunt you down. Don't make them follow up. Don't make them call you. Don't make them text you. You borrow it, you return it immediately. Right? The next one's even worse. Not paying a person back. Like borrowing. It's the exception, not the norm. When someone pays you back. My church in Hendersonville, when I was doing youth ministry, was on the main drag. It was on the main street. We had a lot of walk-ins, mostly people needing stuff, wanting stuff, usually money or whatever. A guy came in right before youth group. I was getting ready for youth group, and he said, "Hey man, my car's broken down. My serpentine. I need a new serpentine belt. They're $12 at AutoZone. You know, do you have $12? Could you help me out?" And as I was reaching back for my wallet, he said the words that he shouldn't have said. He said, "I'll pay you back." And I stopped. And I said, "Man, I wish you wouldn't have said that. Because you know as well as I do that the second you walk out this door, I will never see you again. I will never see your face. You will not darken the doors of this church. You are gone the second you get this $12. I wish you wouldn't have told me that, because now you're breaking the 8th commandment, which now you're stealing from me, and you're breaking the 9th commandment we're talking about next week. You shall not lie. Why did you tell me that? I said, you know, as soon as you get this $12, you're gone and you're never paying it back. And he goes, man, why you got to be that way? Of course I'm going to pay it back. I said, I will be shocked. And he took the $12, and the next day he came back and paid. No, he didn't. He was gone, okay? He was gone. He was lying to my face. This is so important, people. I've gotten to the point where I never loan money anymore because I know I'll never see it again. It's not because I'm some materialistic Ebenezer Scrooge, or it's not because I don't want to help people. It's because it destroys the friendship. If I can't give it, I don't loan it. Because I know the second that it leaves my hands, I'll never see it again, and it's going to destroy the friendship. It's going to create weirdness between me and the person that borrowed from me, and I don't want that. I value the friendship more than whatever they want to borrow. So if I can't give it, I'm not. See, when, not if, the debtor doesn't pay it back, it makes you hide. If you borrow money from someone, you're going to hide from them. I found it's a great way to get people to leave me alone. If there's a family member you don't like, this is Dave's method of dealing with family members you don't like, okay? Loan them money. They will never show up at Christmas ever again. They will never be at Thanksgiving. Let them borrow money. As long as they owe money, they will never talk to you. They will never see you. They'll never show up to anything ever again, okay? So you learned that here. I should patent that. I could make $1 million off of that. But if you want someone to go away and leave you alone, let them borrow money. You'll never see them again. And guys, that is theft. That is stealing. Not paying a person back is a form of stealing. What does the Bible say? You owe that person not only what you borrowed, but 20% because you've now stolen from them. That's a biblical way to make it right. It's heartbreaking that even happens in the church. It happens in the church. Very first Catalyst Christian Church mission trip, we went to Jamaica. There was a young lady that came to our church back then that she wasn't paid in full. She still owed $200 towards the trip, and she promised that she would pay it back as soon as we got back from the trip. We got back from the trip. She didn't pay it back, and she left the church. She left the church. She let a $200 debt keep her from her church family. She didn't want to pay it back, and therefore she stopped worshiping here. And to this day, she's never darkened the doors of this church. She had no intention of paying it back, and she left the church over it. Not paying people back not only qualifies as theft, but it also destroys friendships. Having an unpaid debt makes you hide from the people that you owe. It makes fellowship gatherings weird, so people pay back what you owe. If you borrow money, pay it back immediately. Don't make them come find you. Don't make them text you. Pay it back. All right? Don't destroy friendships over not paying people back. Don't steal from others. Pay back what you owe. I don't have this on the screen, but also taking candy from the visitor mugs. It's not yours. It's for the visitors, Catalyst members. It's not yours. Okay? Leave it alone. It's for visitors, for first-time visitors. That's who it's for. It's who it belongs to. Third one. How we steal, leaving debts unsettled. My wife's family's in the paint, flooring, and home improvement business. People will come in, contractors will come in, and they will fill out a ticket. They'll get paint, they'll get flooring, they'll get blinds, and when the job is done, they're supposed to pay it off. Many do not pay it off. They leave it. They don't come back in to pay their debt. They make the store chase them down and everything. Guys, people, like I said, they will charge materials on account to not pay for it. And so if you bought something from a business, You have to pay for it. Don't make them chase you down. Pay off your debts. It's a terrible statement in this world for an unbeliever, for a believer in Christ to leave debts unsettled. Romans 13:8 says this, "Let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another. For whoever loves others has fulfilled the law." Nothing creates anger and distrust or bad feelings more than skipping out on a debt. And it speaks to your character that you borrowed or you took and you didn't pay it off. It speaks to your character. There's a saying that money does strange things to people. It does. But let's rewrite that, shall we? Make it personal. Money does strange things to me. Steer clear of it. Don't even mess around with the possibility of creating anger and distrust between you and another person or place of business. Pay off your debts. Don't steal. And that's one of the reasons why I had an issue with the student loan forgiveness. I don't want people to be in debt, but people borrowed money to pay for their education, and there are people who work jobs to pay it off, and just canceling it, I have a problem with that because it speaks to our character. You take on a debt, you pay it because that says to you. And guys, I've heard all the rationalizations. I've heard all the justifications. I've heard, well, stealing from that business, they'll just write it off and get a tax break. Oh, they're doing so much better than me, they won't miss it. What's $500? What's my little $500 compared to all the money they make? I've heard it all. Wrong question. Here's the question you need to ask. What does not paying back what you owe say about you? Doesn't matter for $5 or $10,000. If you owe it, you owe it. Pay it back, because this isn't about a company. It's not about a business. It's about you and your integrity and your character and your relationship with Jesus Christ. It's about what you are made of. The fourth way we steal, moving into our students, is plagiarism. When you take someone's ideas and pass them off as yours, that's stealing. That's intellectual theft. You do not have the right to the intellectual property of other people. Plagiarism, which is passing off someone else's research or intellectual property as your own, is now easier than ever. I talk with several teachers. They say plagiarism is at an all-time high because of Google Docs sharing, because of ChatGPT, because of AI. It's so easy to plagiarize now. And Christian students need to be better than that. Last year, higher education was rocked to the core by Harvard President Claudine Gay being accused and shown to be a plagiarist. The president of one of the premier colleges in the world was shown to be a plagiarist on her dissertation. It's everywhere. Plagiarism is stealing through your own work, students. How we steal, the fifth way we steal is time, and this is getting very personal. In preparing for this message, I talked with several business owners who talk about not only property theft from employees, but their employees stealing the stuff that they're supposed to be selling, but time theft from employees, leaving work early, running personal errands on company time when they should have been working, wasting time on social media when corporate policy prohibits it. That's stealing time from the company. One business owner told me that the biggest problem he has with his employees is the time they steal on their phones. He has a no cell phones policy, meaning that when his employees are on the clock, phones are put away. His employees are constantly on their phones, Snapchatting, Facebooking, tweeting, texting, what they should be attending to work. Listen, if you're getting paid to work 40 hours, you better be working 40 hours. Anything else is stealing time from your employer. We also steal time from our families. This is a huge one. People, when you're home, are you home? Parents, when you're with your kids, are you actually with your kids? Are you fully present? Kids, when you're with your parents, are you actually fully present with your parents? The average father spends 5 minutes a day talking with his kids. The average mother spends 11 minutes talking with her kids. That's not enough time to transmit values, to communicate love, to teach, to hear about the day. It's not enough time. It's a huge blind spot for families. Everyone is on their own separate device in their own separate room, watching their own separate screen. Theft is theft. It's not what God wants for your family. Are you stealing time from your employer, from your family, from your spouse? If you're married, you're stealing time. How about this one? Are you stealing time from God? How many of us have seriously neglected the spiritual disciplines of study, of prayer, of fasting, of silence? How many of us regularly steal precious time away from our relationship with God? See, I'm talking about becoming ruthless here, about cracking down on theft, how we steal, because God takes it seriously. If your job is the kind where you are stealing time from your family, find another job. If your job is taking you away from church, from your church family, from worship, you need to find another job. You're stealing time from God, stealing time from our families, stealing time that rightfully belongs to someone else. And if it's time to look at things that are stealing away our time, our precious time, because we only have 24 hours a day. And once it's gone, it's gone. The sixth way we steal is this, cheating the system. Back when I was in college, I was in a band, and we were poor. And we didn't have cell phones, and we couldn't afford long-distance calls. How many of y'all remember long-distance calls? Okay, absolutely. So glad we don't pay those anymore. But there was also things called collect calls, where you could call someone and they would pay for it instead of you. And so when it became automated, this was the precursor to texting. We sent out a group text before texting, before cell phones. We would make a collect call, and the person would, will you accept a collect call from band practice at 5 o'clock Scott's house Tuesday? And then you say, no, I don't accept, and that was our texting. That's how we texted, okay? And guys, that was cheating the system. That was stealing. It was. Parents telling restaurants that your kids are under 12 years old when they're not. That's cheating the system. Using child support payments for things other than to taking care of the child. That's cheating the system. Ordering water and then getting a soft drink at a restaurant. That's stealing. Stiffing the waiter on a tip. If a person's provided good service and they've worked there, they've done their job, they only make about $2.17 an hour without tips. It's a well-known thing that waiters and waitresses hate working Sundays. Did you know that? That the people that, when we get out of church, a lot of you will go out to lunch. People that are working restaurants now are already dreading dealing with the Sunday crowd. Every waiter who's ever worked a restaurant will tell you Sunday is the worst day because the people are rude and they don't tip. John Kelly was telling me the one time he was waiting on a table, he looked and saw a $100 bill. Someone left a $100 tip, and he picked it up and realized it was fake. And it said this, it said, do you know Jesus? A $100 bill, $100 is nice, but a relationship with Jesus is even nicer. He was not feeling very Christian that day. Listen, people, if you're not going to tip, don't leave something like that. Believe me, the waiter is not going to like it. What is driving all of these things, all of these ways, is borrowing and not returning or not paying off debts or cheating the system, is entitlement. It is the feeling that you have the right to things you haven't earned or paid for or worked for. And we need to slay this demonic stronghold of entitlement with the opposite stronghold, the spiritual stronghold known as contentment. Everybody say contentment. Contentment. Contentment is the spiritual state where if God does nothing else for you other than save you from hell and give you eternal life, if you never get a raise at work, if you never get that home that you want, if you never get married like you wanted to, if you never have children like you wanted to, if you never get this possession or that possession, you are perfectly content. You're perfectly happy. That's what contentment is. Hebrews 13:5 says this, keep your lives free of the love of money. Be content with what you have because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. See, guys, contentment is the spiritual state where you are at peace. You're at peace with your family. You're at peace with the world. You're at peace with God. You're at peace with what you have. You are at peace. There's not this driving sense of I deserve in your life. There's not this sense of everybody else is doing better than me. There's not this driving sense of I see that, I want it, I'm just going to take it. There's not that. You're content. So I describe contentment as a person who's just eaten a full all-you-can-eat buffet, and stomach is completely full, and the thought of more food just isn't appealing. That's what contentment is. See, guys, when you are in the spiritual state of contentment, when you're in spiritual state of contentment, you cannot be tempted. Because you can only be tempted by things you don't have or things you want. And if you want nothing, you are not vulnerable to temptation. If you don't value more money, you can't be tempted with a bribe. If you don't value the newest, the latest, the greatest, you can't be tempted to shoplift. If you are content, if you have found full satisfaction in God, then you can't be tempted to adultery or to lying or any other thing. See, guys, temptation works off of entitlement. Temptation says, listen, there's something you don't have and you need it, you want it, you deserve it. That's what temptation does. Contentment says, I'm fine. I don't need anything because I'm fully satisfied with God. What God has given me is more than enough. All of you, it's more than enough for all of me, for every thirst and every need. You satisfy me with your love, and all I have in you is more than enough. That's the spiritual state that you need to be in. See, guys, when you can get to the point you can look at God and you can look at this world and you can say, I need nothing. That means you're truly, truly doing well. We need to find our satisfaction in God. God's love, God's mercy, God's fellowship is enough for us. And when we embrace that, we need nothing else. Entitlement says, I deserve. God says, I am enough. So which one is driving you this morning? Is there a gnawing in your gut saying, I deserve, I need, I'm owed? Or do you say, have you looked at all of that and say, Lord, you're enough for me. I'm at peace. I'm content. I need nothing. Anything else, Lord, you send my way is just a bonus. See, I decided to do something about 20 years ago that has paid huge dividends, and it was to embrace the spiritual discipline of simplicity. Simplicity is one of the most beautiful words in the English language. Simplicity is where you only desire things that bring value. You only have things that satisfy. You declutter. You only have things in your home that add value to your life. You travel light. You don't surround yourself with more and greater and bigger and the newest and the latest. You don't surround yourself with that. My car's 9 years old. Why? Well, because I like it. I don't need a brand new car because I really like my car. I don't need the latest and greatest and the newest and the shiniest. I don't need it. I want to travel light through this world. Whenever I see videos of people like we saw just cleaning out a store, I know that those are people who have bought the lie that things will satisfy, that things are what is important, that they deserve these things without working for them, without earning them. When I was in youth ministry, like again in Nashville, back then, the latest and the greatest thing were the brand new digital cameras. They were like this big, and they had a 3.5-inch floppy disk. Yeah, I don't know if y'all remember those, but you put it in there, take the picture, and yeah, it was really awesome. And one night at youth group, that camera disappeared. And during the social time, and so I got up to speak, and I said, guys, I gotta tell you something. I'm not mad. I'm heartbroken because one of you all, there are hundreds of kids there, one of you all bought the lie that this thing would satisfy you. You bought the lie. You fell for it. This lie that this camera would somehow make your life better, that somehow it was great, and you just took it because you felt entitled to it. You bought the lie. And the kids were just kind of shell-shocked. The next week, the camera appeared. It was sitting on a table when I got there. And there was a Post-it note on it. Turns out it wasn't one of my kids that took the camera. It was one of my adults. One of my adult volunteers that had taken the camera. And the note simply said this: I bought the lie. I'm not buying the lie anymore. And I'm sorry. When I talk with this person, the person had all of the rationalizations. The church can afford it. It's old anyway. I can use it's only used once a week. I could use it all the time. All the rationalizations. But the thing was that this person had bought the lie. And so I'm asking you all, don't buy the lie. Don't let entitlement, the spiritual state of entitlement, which says you deserve things you didn't earn and that you're owed things you didn't work for. Do not let that drive you. Instead, embrace the spiritual condition of contentment and practice the spiritual discipline of simplicity, where we travel light through this world, where we don't value things. We value people. We use things, we value people. We don't use people and value things. That's what it means to travel light through this world. Also, let's lay down the obsessive desire for the newest, the latest, and the greatest. Those things don't satisfy. Learn how to enjoy things without owning them. And go to a park, go to a public library where you can appreciate a book without buying it, where you can enjoy outside without purchasing land. Learn how to enjoy things without owning them. Learn how to find satisfaction in things that bring meaning to your life, not just what looks good. Someone said that we are the craziest people he's ever seen because we work jobs we don't like to earn money we don't need, to buy things we don't even like, to impress the people we don't like. That's psychotic. But that's where so many of us are. Reduce clutter. Get rid of things that don't add value to your life. And then work for what you have. Parents, tell your children to find meaning in the work that they have when they work for things. The satisfaction of going to work, earning a paycheck, and buying things out of that rather than feeling entitled to things they didn't work for. Let them learn the satisfaction of a job well done. Where they can look at everything they have and say, I earned all this. I didn't steal, I didn't take, I didn't borrow. Everything I have, I worked for. I find satisfaction in these things. And the last thing about simplicity is the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. You who would walk into a store and take what is not yours, would you be okay with me doing that in your room? Going into your room and taking what's not mine? If you wouldn't want that happen to you, don't do it to someone else. Don't do it to a person. Don't do it to a business, to an organization, to a church. And if you are not okay with me just taking whatever I want from you, don't take whatever you want from other people. See, this is a spiritual condition. Let's slay the spiritual condition of entitlement, which is taking over our society and destroying us in the process. Instead, embrace contentment, fully satisfied in God. Fully satisfied, at peace with my possessions, at peace with my family, at peace with this world. That's what God wants for every one of you, and that's the message that God has for you today. God bless you. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week.